And we're live. Yay! Hi guys, so we came on a little bit late today because we had just had a bit of technical things to figure out. We are on Hawaii, on Kauai. So hopefully the Wi-Fi is working fine, and we'll just give maybe a couple of more minutes for people to drop in, because usually first few minutes there are a lot of people just coming on. So let's see, we can actually see right here. Let me just open the control panel so we can see who is on already. Let's see. Okay, we have 30 registered, 11 are on right now, and more will drop in. Cool. So, ladies who are on right now, can you just let us know in the chat if you can hear us and see us, and we are good to go? So we always have a little bit of a delay with the chat and stuff. Okay. So in the meantime, I can just, as a reminder, tell you, so for the best viewing experience, because we're working with Hawaiian Wi-Fi. Okay, they can hear us. Yes, perfect. Good, good, good. Hi, ladies. Nice to see you. So for the best viewing experience, if you can close anything else you have running, so any other Facebook or downloads or online backups or whatever, that's going to slow your connection down. So just make sure you have everything else closed, and we should be flowing smoothly. If you have any kind of freezing or choppiness in the sound or the image, just refresh. And if you get thrown out, then just go back to the Facebook group or to the email that you received with the link, and it should send you right back in again. So with that, yes, nice background, exactly. Hey, Rianne. Nice. Hey, Alicia, Angie, Joanna, Judy, Ariel. Nice, ladies. Okay. So can you just let us know in the chat where you are tuning in from, so where in the world you are? And also let us know one thing that you are grateful for in this moment. And in the meantime, I can check in with you, Ryan. What are you grateful for in this moment?
I'm grateful for the air, the wind blowing, this climate I'm in. I'm coming from Boulder, Colorado, which is wintry, and so grateful for that, and also just the flow of life. Just finishing one live stream, and now jumping into this live stream is so fun. It's so good. Life is good.
So Ryan was just now before on the Trinfinity Academy live stream, and he came out like 4 minutes before we started this. Like, shit, we're gonna go again. So that's fun. So I was following that one, and that was really enjoyable. There might be some crossovers from that. I might ask him to share some highlights and nuggets from that one as well, because there was some really cool stuff shared there also. And I feel grateful for nature, mainly. So on this island, it's just so incredibly abundant. And yesterday we were out on this beautiful barefoot hike in the rainforest, Ryan and I and Kelly. And at some point, it started raining really heavily, and first we found these like big leaves that we could use as umbrellas, and then later on in the hike we just went like, screw this, we'll just surrender to the rain, and then we got completely soaked, and we're jumping in all the puddles as we were walking back and just enjoying the abundance of nature. So I feel very grateful for nature right now, and I feel grateful for all you ladies, and I feel grateful for you, Ryan. So let's see, Angie, The Hague, the Netherlands, grateful for a relaxed evening. Judy's tuning in from Utrecht, the Netherlands, grateful for the amazing support between sister friends. Trudy, Netherlands, lots of Dutchies.
And Trudy, we cannot see you guys. She's asking a question, can you see us as well, or no?
No, we cannot see you unless later you come on camera, then we can see you if you want to speak live. Trudy, Netherlands, I'm grateful for being served, held, and loved by 5 beautiful men just an hour ago. Ooh, maybe I should come back to the Netherlands. There's only one man here, and he's not even holding me. No. So let's see. Clear sunrise background. Energetically holding. Yes, let's see. Joanna in wintry Ireland, grateful for a full belly. Nice. My belly is full of papaya. right now. Ariel, Amsterdam, grateful for the piece of cake that I just had as I will start the 3-day detox on Saturday. It's good to warm up with cake before a detox. So Alicia's grateful for the Ingwan Tango Festival in Sevilla, Spain now. Ladies, Amsterdam, grateful for the gentle healing and transformation of creation. Rihanna the Built, so grateful for sister support. Okay, wonderful. Wonderful. Okay, so exactly with those words of Rihanna, grateful for the sister support, and rather, let's take a moment and tune in with each other. So it looks like most of you are over in Europe. We have Holland and Ireland and Norway on the line. We are over here on Kauai, so we are quite spread out across the globe. So just take a moment and tune in with that. Again, seeing this is like different points of light spread out across the globe, and we're connected both energetically, just through the non-physical, as well as through the miracle of technology that we are tapping into. And so let's just take a couple of breaths with that. You can close your eyes or keep them open, whatever you prefer. Just sinking into the relaxation of this connection that we share. Okay, so today's topic is empowered living. And I have brought Ryan on with me because A, we happen to be together on the same island, and B, also he's very, very, very much living and breathing this state and this space of empowered living, which we'll get into. We'll see how deep we go into it, but we'll get into some keys and some nuggets that we both practice and live just naturally. But it hasn't always been like that. But there are some few little key points we want to share with you, and then also open up for Q&A. There have been a couple of pre-submitted questions, but we'll have quite a lot of space for you ladies. And my guess would be that we'll go for like an hour and a half max, something like that. So empowered living, just tuning into that for myself, it really comes down to a deep, deep trust in life, a deep, deep trust in the benevolence of this universe, in the trust of that life is always taking care of us, and life is just always supporting us when we open up to it. And in a way, life is a self-fulfilling prophecy. So whatever we believe about life is going to be reflected back to us in circumstance. So you might have had experiences in your life where you did not feel supported, where it felt like everything was going wrong. And if we can really honestly look at what was going on the inside in those moments, very likely that is a reflection of our inner state of being. So even if it seems like lack and things going wrong are showing up in our life, that is still a reflection of life's complete unconditional ability to deliver to us whatever our inner state of being is matching up with. So even if it seems like lack is showing up in our experience, that is still a reflection of life's abundant ability to deliver that lack. So just seeing that clearly, the good news is that then when we know this, we can very, very easily tap into a state where, through shifting our inner state of being, life begins to reflect that in the most magnificent and magical ways. And usually, if this is something new, empowered living, and really stepping into that, it might feel a bit shaky at first, but when we really begin to tune into that frequency and begin to live that more and more, then that trust is also backed up by life experiences beginning to reflect that, and then it becomes this positive spiral feedback loop where things just keep on getting better and better and better. So with this, I just want to hand over to you for a moment and just check in with you, Ryan. So what have you found in your life to be a few shifters, a few shifts of perspective, or a few keys to being able to trust life and live in an empowered way?
Yeah, thanks, Ronja. When you were talking, the perspective came when you were saying trust. Like empowered living is being able to trust life and go with its flow. And it's fun sitting next to this feminine. If I'm holding, say, the masculine pole, what came to me is trust, and structure. And what I mean by that is kind of like love and wisdom. So what I found really, really supportive for me and many others is it's not only living with this flow and being in the moment and I guess flowing with life's circumstances, etc. But it's also having like, gosh, I hope this isn't like a bad word, but like a cognitive framework to understand what's happening as well. In the sense that we all are coming with an inertia of previous paradigms. Like we're pretty much from growing up in childhood, from going through our educational system, we're taught that life is a certain way. And in order to be successful, you have to work really hard. And bad things can happen to good people because life is random. Or like there's so many different belief systems about like I'm over here and you're over there. We're good, but those people in another country are bad. Or our religion is right and they're mean well, but they're a little off track. There's so much of that. And so if we were to sit here and say, oh my gosh, our lives are really amazing, and we just invite you to just trust life, just trust that it will all work out. Just think positively and it will all work out, which is true, totally. And if we're trying to say implement that new way of being, living in that new paradigm, but we're trying to fit that into our existing paradigm of there's lack, there's separation, like I have to like gauge my circumstances and be careful about things and like navigate through life, um, then it doesn't work out so well, because us trying to live that new state of being in our existing structure is too small. It's like we're trying to fit into an old shirt and it's not supportive. So when we also have this, say, cognitive framework, to be fancy, but these beliefs, these perspectives is like, oh, okay, the resonant laws of the universe, that's how they work. Oh, if I soften my perspective, my gaze, I can actually start feeling the presence which moves through all things. And these vibrational laws that my state of being in a way crafts my circumstances, as opposed to my circumstances determine how I feel. Like some of these fundamental kind of universal laws, as we expand that understanding, it's easier for us, for say our mind, for our identity to relax into these things also. So then I can walk out my door and I can trust, not only just be in the moment and flow, but then I can also be like, okay, and also this makes sense. I can relax as well. Like my mind might want to freak out and try to control something, but it's like, wait, actually life is on my side and it makes sense to me in whatever way makes sense. So these principles that these various teachers offer, or Ronja offers, like as much as it might seem, it can seem masculine or feminine, like, no, I just want to be, or like, no, I have to understand in order to then relax, is this blend. It's this blend of love and wisdom, which for me has been really, really supportive in this journey.
Yeah, totally. And so a part of the wisdom thing is really about seeing through limiting beliefs, not just like, oh, I choose to trust life, but actually really clearly seeing through things. And so one of the fundamental understandings that is super crucial and completely pivotal to being able to live an empowered life and trust and in abundance and in a state of joy and relaxation is the notion that lack is a complete impossibility. Lack just cannot exist. And the simplest way maybe to explain this is that if you look at life from the perspective of infinity, from infinity there cannot be anything missing. There cannot be anything missing from infinity. So from the universe's perspective, or from life itself, which we are all a part of, there cannot be anything lacking or anything missing. And from the human perspective, there might be the possibility that it seems like, oh, if I'm lacking food, I might die. But the truth of the matter is that who we truly are can't even die. So even lack on that extreme level isn't actually real, because life is an endless, continuous journey, and consciousness can experience itself on so many different ways, in so many different ways, and on so many different levels, of which the physical experience is one. But there are so many possible experiences to be had in terms of consciousness taking form, or infinity experiencing itself through us and through the infinite interfaces and points of view that exist. And so lack is simply an impossibility. And life has the ability to deliver to us anything that we are tuned in with, basically. So in the previous live stream, and if you haven't watched, by the way, Manifestation Magic Part 1 and 2, then I highly recommend that you go back into the Century Yogini library and check them out, because I go into this a lot deeper there. But a very simple example, that was actually something that you spoke about in one of your live streams as well, is that if we speak about the lack of money, for example, so some of you might experience lack of money to travel or go to courses or whatever. And if you're vibrating at a frequency of I don't have enough money, then life from its all infinite abundant place is saying, well, there's plenty of money over here, but she says that she wants to have the experience of not enough money. So from abundance, we deliver her the experience of not enough money. That doesn't mean that there is actually not enough money. It just means that you have called in that experience. So that is still a representation of abundance, even though it seems like lack, if that makes sense. And so this is just one of the fundamental notions, that there are infinite possibilities, infinite parallel realities, and depending on our state of being, we will be tuned into a certain broadcast, a certain frequency domain, a certain life experience that will create our life story and our circumstances. So that's just a little fundamental thing. Anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, beautiful. That this was actually one of the fundamental principles that shifted for me when about lack. And I'm like, what is lack? And again, we're so taught and trained to avoid lack at all cost. So we look at my life, and often this is another principle of noticing if you're moving away from something or you're moving towards something. Moving, meaning like, are you in your life, are you moving toward what you're wanting in your day, in this conversation, in your life mission, whatever scale? Or are you more navigating to avoid the bumps in the road? Are you more like, okay, well, if I do this in my day, then that's good. And I'm basically orchestrating my day to avoid the bumps, or my life to avoid the bumps. And so therefore I'm moving away from something I don't want, but I'm kind of by default just getting something else. Or am I moving towards something? And so with lack, that there's an abundance of the experience, really of any experience. And so if I don't have enough food to eat, there's like an abundance of the experience of not having enough food to eat, if that makes sense. It's like there's an abundance of, as Ronja was saying, the experience of not having enough money. There's an abundance of the experience. And as we dial back our experience into more the experiential realm, then it is like, okay, what is that feeling I have? Okay, it's like, man, I don't have enough of that, and I want to go to that trip, but man, I don't have enough money for that. And the other principle is life takes its cue from us. And so from our vibrational, say, state of being, and vibrational state of being might sound fancy, but in a way it's like how you're feeling. And it's like we're in a reality TV show, and life is like we have a big props department all around us all the time. Lighting, cameras, props, soundtrack, sound, guest stars, totally guest stars. And as I'm walking through my day, instead of saying, okay, I don't want to have a lot of traffic going to work, and I don't want my boss to be annoying today, and I don't, life doesn't, the director of our film, which is actually us in another aspect anyway, but the director of our film doesn't hear the words. It's tuning, it's watching us all the time, but it's like, okay, don't want to have conflict with my boss, don't want to be stuck in traffic. Okay, that's okay. Ryan's wanting that experience. So okay, props department, let's cue the construction delay, and let's cue the coffee being spilled on the paper he was supposed to hand in. And like, so then like, let's give him an abundance of this feeling of, I don't want that to happen. And so that's why if I'm like, oh, okay, actually, wow, I'm catching myself. Let me actually get a little clearer on what I'm wanting. If I don't want my boss to get all upset and be annoying today, what do I want then? Okay, I want a collaborative work experience. Great. And I want the feeling of ease and fluidity going to work. In one sense, regardless of whether there's traffic or not, I don't actually care. I just want to arrive and be in an easy, fluid space. And so then when life looks at that, it's like, oh, Ryan's wanting that sense of ease, that sense of you can say just being happy. Then okay, props department, cue, etc. And then it crafts the soundtrack when you walk into work instead of a dun 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 soundtrack in the background, which then just starts affecting your mood. There's kind of like a more uplifting soundtrack. And so a similar thing can be said. I'm sure you guys have perhaps noticed. Say two, like you and a friend are walking down a street, and you're walking down the same street, busy street, and your friend's in a really, really bad mood. And like nothing's working out for her, and just people are mean, and just life's kind of hopeless. And you're like, oh my God, I just saw this awesome live stream, and like I have such sisters, and like life is good, and I have these new ideas, and I'm inspired, and I'm getting support, and life is on my side. So you're walking down the same street, like attracts vibration attracts vibration. I know, I'm sure you guys have heard that, but it's also like where our attention goes. That's sort of the frequency realms where our attention, where we hang out. So I could be walking, or you could be walking down the street, and your eyes just happen to notice the smiling baby, or oh my gosh, the flower pot that's sitting on the stairs by that apartment, or wow, the sun is shining, sweet. And then your friend literally right next to you is walking down that same sort of structural consensus reality, but she has the right to be in her own little reality TV show with her own soundtrack going on and her own lighting and her own awareness. So she's seeing, oh, there's garbage underneath that bench. Wow, there's a couple arguing. Oh, there's a homeless person that looks like he hasn't eaten in like 3 days. Crap, I hope that doesn't happen to me. I hope my boss doesn't fire me, because then I'll be like that. And then that snowballs in that direction. And so there's massive power in, well, think positive, like see the bright side of life. But again, it's not just a wishy-washy thing to infuse into an existing lack paradigm. As we start shifting our perception of what reality is, then it meets us. And then we're living in these realms. And it's much easier to play and swim in those waters.
Totally. And also in terms of the different experiences we have walking down the same street, that could also be internally. So you might be noticing the smiling baby, and your friend is noticing the couple arguing. And also internally, as you're walking down the street, you might be getting ideas and inspiration and downloads for something you want to create. Meanwhile, your friend is thinking about how she was rejected the other day, and how she's worried about what's going to happen the next day. So internally, same street, same scenario, but completely different experience. So in that sense, life is like this big party where we're all like hanging out in the same party, but the interactions and the experiences we'll have in that party are completely different depending on our state of being. And so one of the things that I really love that has inspired me with what Ryan has been sharing is this little thing that so we're going to get into a bit more of the nuggets here, but this few like very simple, playful and fun shifters that you can have, that you can begin to, that if this is not completely natural for you already, or even if it is, and these are few fun little nuggets that you can have as like default responses and shifters that you can bring with you. So that when things go seemingly wrong, or when things don't go according to plan, or when it feels like things are not working out the way that they that you wanted them to check in with yourself what your default response is. If you are responding with, why is this happening to me, and this shouldn't be happening, and I should have done things differently to prevent this, or something like that, or are you shifting into automatically, cool, this means that's like something even better is coming along. And so yeah, we could share a little bit about how that's been.
Sure.
Do you want to tell the story?
Which version?
Just a bit about the Airbnb and stuff. And
You share.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure. So silly example, but like we are here in Kauai, and we've been looking for accommodations to stay on this island. And because we're here kind of around Valentine's Day and a lot of things are booked, we just found that there's like very, very, very little things available. And it's either like not what we wanted, or it's super expensive or whatever. And then we had, so we camped out the first days on the beach, and we had some stormy nature experiences and stuff. But then we found this Airbnb. We're like, okay, cool. So we're settled for the coming 2 weeks. We're settled for the rest of the time. And then the other day, same day as we're going to move into this place where we are now, we found out that we can actually only be here for 2 days. We found out about that the same day. So that means that the next 11 days we would be homeless again. And then potentially in that moment we could be all upset and contract and go into a frequency that would indicate that there is a lack occurring of some kind, or that something is going wrong. But then we both noticed in each other that both of our default response, both of our automatic response to this was like, okay, cool, so this means that something even better is going to happen. And then we went online to Airbnb and checked out accommodations, and immediately we saw this place that was not available when we looked a few days ago. It just wasn't there, and now suddenly there was space there, which is in a great location, surrounded by beautiful mountains. It is actually cheaper than this place where we're staying now, and it has two cats and Wi-Fi and balcony and like everything we wanted. And it's owned by this adventure tour guide who will definitely hook us up to some cool experiences and places on this island. So you see how a very simple, very kind of like isolated, sliced out example like this is like a representation of how we interact with life. Maybe you know the saying that how you do anything is how you do everything. So this is like a micro zoomed in situation, but it's an indication of how we usually respond to pretty much anything that happens, whether it's a loss of a job or a relationship breaking up or anything big or small. And so by both of us going into it, okay, cool, so this means that something even better is going to happen, we shifted into a vibrational state of being that would allow for that to open up. Whereas if we had been like, no, we have already checked Airbnb, there's nothing there, where can we find out? And should we go and put a flyer up in the supermarket?
Ronja, why didn't you look earlier and get us places? Like why
Yeah.
I trusted you to do this. Like now I'm really upset, and like let's just get in a fight, because that's probably what we should do in a moment like
Exactly.
this. Like,
Exactly. So that's all a possibility. So this is just something you can check in with yourself, either right now, if there's something that is happening in your life right now that seems like it is lack occurring to you, or it seems like something is not going according to plan, or maybe something just happened last week, you got a message from somebody, or a decision was made by somebody else that is affecting you seemingly in your life. Check in with your response, because these are like the window of opportunity, these are the gateway moments. And those moments, by the way, they are in every single moment. So in any moment we can shift into a space of trust and of abundance. But this is something that you can very practically bring with you and check in when something happens that is seemingly not going according to plan. What is the default response that you shift into in response to that?
because in each of these moments, it's like there are these doorways, and if we get into the perspective of there's infinite parallel realities, we can kind of skip the main part, but just say there's a lot of options of any given experience, like we were talking about. And so in those moments, it's like I can choose, you know what, this is bad. This is bad. I'm now defining this as bad. And I'm going to get upset with Rania and whatever. And there's all these underlying lack beliefs that are getting triggered, say. But that's like a doorway that I can choose in that moment. Or I can say, wow, I'm noticing I'm getting a little charged. Okay, well, what do I want? Like, you know what? I'm going to choose. I heard people talk about this enough and I've had enough experience. I'm just going to choose that this too can be in my best interest. That maybe this is just a stepping stone to the actually the most relevant thing for me, and not the thing itself, which at first I thought this house was the thing itself. But maybe this was just a stepping stone, or I thought this relationship, this guy I met, was the thing itself. But maybe he was a stepping stone to the thing that's even more relevant. And then what I learned in that experience has me even more available to then match someone in the way that I want to be matched. But I totally digressed and got distracted here. So we have choice. And so it can be so palpable to me. Like I can choose to get upset about this housing not working out, or you know what, I'm going to choose to define this in a way that I want. I'm going to choose to define this in a way that's still aligned with life being on my side. I've had enough moments where I believe that. I'm not going to give up on that now. And then since I'm choosing to say, okay, cool, maybe this is a stepping stone to the next best thing, then my awareness is just notched into this doorway over here as opposed to this doorway. And then because I step there, I'm in a way on a higher sort of frequency. I'm feeling more upbeat, so I have access to more inspired ways of thinking instead of the crunchy, I'm isolated. And so then it's like, let's just check Airbnb before we freak out. Let's just check Airbnb again. No, but we already checked it. Whatever, let's just check it again. And we checked it, and the thing showed up. And again, if we decided to go down that other path of being upset and like life's not on our side, maybe we made a mistake, then we might have just said, we've already checked Airbnb, we weren't tapped into those inspired thoughts. And so it's really an amazing, like, again, breadcrumb trail where we really are in the driver's seat. And that's the thing I love most about empowered living, is it doesn't need the permission of anybody else. And there's so many layers to that. But the keys to empowered living really are within. And that's just the biggest gift of why I like doing this work, but also sharing with people, is because in a way it's like, yeah, we're talking out here and etc. But it really is just pointing back into just getting more and more in touch with like, oh, how do I do me? How do I orient to life? What do I want? And some of just the simplicity of that can bring such a sweetness to life.
And so when everything seems confusing, and when it's like you don't necessarily say there's something that you want to do, you want to go on a trip, or you want to start a new business, or you want to create a course or a workshop, or an offering of some kind, a product, or coaching, whatever it is that you're doing, and you're clear about what you want, but it seems like it's not clear in this moment how it's going to work out, how it's going to happen practically. Like you have a sense of what you want, so you're vibrational clear about what you want, but you haven't figured out the practical details, like what action to take next, or what to do to make it work out so that you can reach the desired outcome. And this is something that I think you know what I'm talking about right now, but it's like one of the sentences that you can just instill in yourself with this is, well, I'm going to hand it over to you, because this is like something that you say really often.
Cool. Okay. So I'm tuning into like how much background to give. But if knowing what we want, being vibrationally clear on what we want, is so important, because that's like our North Star. That's telling life and the props department around us how to set the stage and what stage of all the various stage setups we want. Then often people can start stressing out about like, oh, I have to figure out what I want. I mean, I've learned enough about law of attraction that I really need to, like, if I have a negative thought that's going to take me down this pathway, and Ryan was talking about doors, and if I have a negative thought, I'm going down this doorway, and the next thing I know, I'm going to be lost in a snowball. And okay, I have to monitor my thoughts, and in a way that feels so contracted and like stressful, and that in and of itself is an indicator that approach to perceiving this is not as efficient. It's a little off track, so we can just like pause that altogether. However, there's a little trick, so to speak, that I really, really love. For some reason, this really works for me. That sometimes when I'm in a situation of like, say, this housing, where, okay, we don't know where we're gonna live. Well, okay, hold on, before anything, let me just get clear on what I want. And instead of just focusing on the circumstance of like, well, I want a 3-story house overlooking the ocean, and start labeling all these things, then I might say, cool, starting on the circumstance level. And I have to add this piece before I get to the other piece, because this is one of the most common missteps I see with people who apply the law of attraction and manifestation principles. Like the law of attraction stuff is so common, more or less nowadays. More or less nowadays. And the biggest misstep is that people are leaving it in just the realm of circumstance. Oh, I'm clear on what I want. I want that thing or that thing.
We make a vision board and we put up the pictures.
Correct. And so that's a great first step. But life doesn't orchestrate itself around the things. Because if we're like, well, I want a red Ferrari. And I put on my vision board and manifest the red Ferrari. Yeah, structurally that can happen. It shows up in my driveway. That's just a neutral experience. This is a neutral circumstance. And so, Ryan, why do you want a red Ferrari? Well, because then I'm going to have a girlfriend. Because obviously women love hot cars, right? Well, why do you want a girlfriend?
In Holland, everyone is riding a bike. So.
Well, I'm gonna have the hottest, coolest bike ever.
Yeah.
And so, well, then obviously I'm gonna be in love, and also I'm gonna feel successful because if I have a nice car, that means I'm successful. So my parents will actually finally approve of me. Okay, so feeling worthy and being in love, in a state of love, is what you're actually wanting with the car. Okay, so let's extract what the car symbolizes to you, Ryan, and focus on that state of being. And then let's let the masterful intelligence of life orchestrate the most relevant structural circumstance to match that. I might think it's a car, but like Ronja said, that's just based on my own history, the things I've seen in my past or the things I've seen in movies. But I realize in Holland that's actually different. So my higher self knows this. And so it's actually extracting the tonal qualities of what I want and then letting life orchestrate the circumstances. Same thing with relationships. Like instead of, okay, I need a 6'2" guy because clearly those are like the most together confident guys because that's what I've seen in my life. And I need a blonde because the brunettes I've seen are always, idiots. And and whatever like the categories we have, that's great to start with. And so, but then you extract, okay, you want a blonde, not a brunette, because brunettes are idiots. So you don't want idiots. So what you want, or what do you mean by idiots? Well, people who are just like 3D, worrying about money and whatever. I want someone who can have conscious collaboration with. I want to be with someone I can feel expanded being around. Cool. Like, does it have to be blonde, or do you want that feeling? Well, no, I want the feeling. Great. So let's extract the feeling quality. And so then you can use a vision board as a symbol, but then quickly extract, like, okay, when I'm in my creational vortex, my creational space, it's like, okay, I'm in a relationship with someone I feel expanded being around. We have such dynamic conversations, and I feel I can lean into him totally. But there's also times where I can stand up and activate my masculine, and he leans into me, and there's this two-way street of collaboration and communication. That's in a way the resonant tuning fork that you hold. Then life sees that and is like, oh, cue the amazing guy who now she's a vibrational match to me. And so just to summarize that, extract from this circumstance, well, I want to live in this house, I want to go on that trip. Well, what does that trip symbolize to you? Well, that I actually can, that I'm free, that this stuff actually works, that I'm not locked in this ho-hum dead-end job. And so tune into that freedom and then let life orchestrate the most relevant. And it's not the like, let life orchestrate the most relevant thing. You might not get what you want. Like you might get the second best thing. It's not saying you might have to settle for second best, even though that's what you've heard a lot as a little kid. Don't get your hopes up too high because you know you might not get it. You don't get everything you want. And so when it's that you might get something even better, is to like be open to the possibility of getting something even better. And so now to the initial piece. If you're having a day and you're having a moment and you're like, oh my gosh, there's so many variables, I'm just in a bit of a swirl. In this moment, I can't get clear on the nuances of what I want, even vibrationally align with that. Or I don't have the time, or I'm just not in the mood. Then the blanket umbrella intention that really works for me is the, oh my God, it worked out so well. Like it worked out so well. I invite you to even write that down. Like it worked out so well. So simple, but it can be anything. This live stream worked out so well. Our housing accommodation worked out so well. That conversation with my partner, wow, it worked out so well. Quitting my job and finding a whole new job in a whole new city worked out so well. Whatever realm you want to zoom out or zoom in on, but it's that feeling tone. So if I'm looking at a scenario, so the housing thing, oh my gosh, it's raining and it's gale force winds, and we only have accommodations for 2 days, and we're back camping on the beach with the tent blowing over, which is fun in its own right. But for a couple nights, then it's nice to be in a beautiful house. And before I can do anything, or if I notice I'm charged enough, I'm like, okay, hold on. Oh my God, it worked out so well. Like I almost zoom into the future looking back, and it's like it's a few days from now, and I'm just closing my eyes when I'm in the bathroom or something. Oh my God, that worked out so well. Like the synchronicity, the way that thing happened and then that thing happened, it worked out so well. And it's okay to be so general. Like, yeah, that thing and then that thing and the synchronicity of life. And when you can get excited about that, it worked out so well. I'm sure we can all in a certain way tap into that. Then life is looking at you and saying, oh, regarding this situation, we're going to take these marching orders, these coordinates, these GPS coordinates of all the areas you could end up physically, but also emotionally, of all the different destinations emotionally you can end up. These are the GPS coordinates Ryan wants of that sense. Cool. Let's now craft life and the synchronicities and the connections and the inspired ideas and inspired action to match that. So that's a way to be very general and to keep the mind chatter out of it and to just throw that umbrella, intention.
And so this is something that you can really use, especially when you're feeling overwhelmed, when it feels like you're really from your mind trying to figure things out and it's just not working. It just feels like you're trying to push it and it's not working. And so when it feels like circumstances are so overwhelming and there's so much chaos and there's too much happening for you to figure it out on your own, to just break it with that, oh my God, that worked out so well. That is putting you into a state of vibration where you can actually receive the orchestration of life, because life has the bigger picture, much, much bigger than you have or that we have from our limited personal asserted self. So you're tapping into your higher self and the connection and the greater perspective that our higher self has in connection with all of life, and just in a way releasing the strings and just letting go and saying, you know what, life, I trust you to take care of this. And that statement, oh my God, that worked out so well, is one of those instant shifters that can just switch us into that state of being, and then we can actually let life orchestrate things. So in a way, we're delegating things to the universe, which is usually much better at handling things than we are, in any case. And also that we are just tapping into this space of possibilities that would bring in a solution that we can't see from our current perspective, but that is probably much, much better and much easier than anything we could fathom or imagine with our limited mind. So that's one of those sentences you can bring with you and just take this with you in the coming time. And also what the ladies, what you're saying, so rather than attachment to the form, focus on the joy of the outcome. Exactly, because it's about the feeling, not a form. Whatever we're wanting, whether it's a red Ferrari or
a red Ferrari bike,
a red Ferrari bike, exactly, nice. Or whether it's a partner or a trip to Hawaii or anything, what we are wanting in that is pretty much always comes down to a state of being, and the state of being is available regardless of the circumstances.
Yes.
So tapping into that, then it's an automatic fulfillment and realizing that it is really great to use desire, because it is a guidance from our higher self. Desire is literally our higher self saying, come this way, come this way, come this way. And so it's really great to follow the desire, but to also realize that whatever we are desiring, that state of being that we imagine that the outcome would provide for us, is actually accessible now. And the access point to this, there are many ways. You can dance, you can shake it, you can do all sorts of things, but just through imagination, imagining what that would be like. And one of the little tricks that you can use to accelerate manifestation in terms of what you are desiring actually showing up in your life is to imagine it as if it has already happened. To place that thing that seemingly is in the future, to place it in your past. Yes. In terms of the way you look at it. So even before we came to this island, when we were like talking on Voxer with us and with Kelly, and we were like sorting out accommodation and stuff, at some point when Kelly and I were like talking about practical details about, oh, we found this thing, but it's not great because of that, but maybe this is better and stuff, then Ryan just sent us this message saying, oh my God, guys, that just worked out so well. And Kelly, it was so amazing the way that you were just like in the health food store, and then this guy came up to you and said, hey, I have this mansion that I'm going to be living for a few weeks. Do you want to house it? And the way that there was a hot tub there, and there was, so he just like painted this really kind of like over the top awesome picture of what happened. But it was just so beautiful, because that just tapped us all into this feeling of like, it's already taken care of, like that worked out so well. So to imagine something, whether it's a project or a trip or sorting something out, or even doing a live stream or giving a workshop, from beyond the completion date, from beyond it happening, looking back internally and being like, oh my God, that was such a beautiful experience. And then you're already in the vibrational state of that already having happened, and then life will just orchestrate whatever needs to fit in for that to like fill the time gap and the practical things for that to actually come into being. And one more thing I just want to add about that, when I have an intention for something, that I also open it up and say to life and to my higher self, okay, like I'm open for this or something even better. So I always add the like or something even better, because whatever you might imagine from your current state of being, even that seems like that's the ultimate thing, there might be an even better version of that possible that you can't even conceive of. So just add that in can even more open up the possibilities.
Yeah.
Okay, it's like either this or something else equally badass or even better.
Yes. And so what I find, that's beautiful, Ronja, by the way.
Thank you.
What another reason I find that helpful by doing this overarching intention, say at the end of my Hawaii trip, being like, oh my God, that was so amazing. Like, not only did that work out so well, but I couldn't, like, the way that played out, it was more than I could have imagined I wanted. And that can be on many levels, not just physical accommodations, but my own journey, my own inner transformation, my own deepening into my path and my life and myself and my love and etc. When I'm saying that it worked out so well, it's kind of like telling again the reality TV show that my life is, that hey, this is the theme of this Hawaii trip. So this is the overarching theme, and now we're going to work out the little scenarios within that. So how this helps me is that when times get a little challenging, like for instance, the first night I arrived, Ronja and Kelly so beautifully set up this amazing tent on, they were here before me, set up a tent on the beach right near the ocean, magical. So that night I'm sleeping in the tent, it starts raining, the wind is blowing so hard, the tent's literally like flattening on top of me as I'm inside. And again, I had a choice. I could start defining that as like, oh man, maybe I should have looked for accommodations. Maybe I would have been able to find something. Maybe somehow this is not good. But if then I was like, wow, that doesn't feel fun at all. Like, okay, well, let me go with this. And then what helps me trust an apparent bad situation is when I feel like I've done everything I can, and then I just sort of let it go and flow. So if I'm like, no, I was clear, like I've done everything I can. I have this intention of like, that this is so amazing. This has worked out so well on so many layers and levels. That, you know what? I'm going to trust that this too is in alignment with that. That I might not, is part of everything working out. And I acknowledge I've seen that enough in my life thus far, that something that seems like I don't want ends up I having such a transformational experience through it. But if I was just like, I'm just going to be in the moment and not have any intentions, for me, that gives my mind too much ground to like, you didn't plan enough, you didn't do enough. But when I start believing how these mechanics of the universe work, these vibrational laws of the universe work, hence the cognitive framework, then I can trust that, okay, this seems negative, but I'm going to trust that it's in alignment. And so when I did that, I was like, okay, well then let me trust and relax into the experience. Maybe I don't need to sleep tonight. I don't feel physically threatened. I just won't sleep. And then I sunk into such a beautiful connection with like the storm energy and the island energy. And I was starting to like speak out loud to the island saying, I'm here. Thank you for welcoming me. And like, I got into a whole different experiential realm. Again, because I chose it, or I set things in place where I could trust these seemingly negative circumstances more. It's a different way to define them.
Mm. And another example, thank you for that.
Yes.
Yes. And another example of this, also from this last week being here on this island. So some of you know Kelly Love. She's a magnificent human being, one of my best sister friends in the world. Met her in December on the big island of Hawaii, and we've been staying together for quite a long time now. So she loves to paint, and she hasn't been painting for a long time. And she's finally, like for the first time in pretty much in years, she has started to paint again. And she has like these beautiful canvases. She bought a lot of paint, and she's been really enjoying sitting on the beach and painting for the first time. And she said something like 7 years or something. So it's like a big build-up of like, I want to paint. And then the other day, we were going to go out for a little day trip. And then she had placed her bag with the canvases, with the paint, with her 2 books, with a lot of food, with her jade egg,
favorite bikini,
her favorite bikini, like all of her dearest things were in this bag. She had put it next to the car, and then we had driven off without it. And she realized like hours later, and the rain was pouring down, and we had actually like, we wanted to escape the rain, and then we were like, what do we want to feel? We want to feel like relaxation and lounginess and like beautiful views and being by the oceans. We ended up kind of like gate crashing this 5-star hotel and sitting in their hot tub, and having a good time. But anyway, she was like, oh my god, I forgot the bag. And she went back there and it was gone. And so the next day she was out asking everyone in the campsite if they had seen it, and nobody had. And so this, like with all her most precious, most beloved possessions, including the first painting that she was creating in such a long time, had just vanished. And so in that moment, that's a a moment when it would be very natural and normal to go into a state of sadness and contraction around this and being like, I can't believe this is happening. I'm finally painting. There's been this huge buildup of excitement, and I can't believe that that's all just gone now, and I can't even read my books. And why would somebody do such a thing? And I bet the person who took it isn't even enjoying the painting. And she could spiral into this, and then instead she felt it, and she could feel the sadness of that, and the sweetness in her heart and the tenderness, like, I just want to paint, I just want to paint. And then she said, you know what, it's so silly, like what if I get all worried about this now, and I worry for a whole day, and then the next day it shows up again? Like, that would be silly. And even if it doesn't show up, like, what a waste of my energy that would be to go into worry and sadness. So she felt it for a bit, but then she really stayed tuned with her desire and what she wants, and like, okay, I really, really, really want to paint, and just surrendering into, okay, so maybe this is how life can just support me in an even bigger way, and maybe this is an opportunity for me to just experience how life actually does provide in a much bigger way, and that I'm always held and I'm always supported. And then 2 days later, she was out for a run, and she met this amazing woman who just happens to have like basically material for an entire art studio that she wants to put up. And she's just wanting to gather like artists who can come and paint and can do these things. And so you see how like the loss of a bag of canvases and paint, through her being open for life providing for her, turned into like this woman that wants to set up a whole art studio. And then also trusting that, even because this is the funny thing, like when manifestations then begin to show up, it's very easy that we then hook onto that and say, okay, so now I got this one. But even the trust that, because that still may or may not happen, like it's not set up in this moment, that may or may not happen. So then it's a trust. It's like, okay, it's either that or something even better, because her meeting that woman was life reflecting to her her inner state of being in that moment. And as she stays in that vibration of trust and abundance, of enjoyment of life, and seeing the beauty, and seeing just the way nature is continuously painting itself with colors, and just staying in that state of appreciation, life keeps on reflecting that. So it's not that it's like this one chance and that must be it, and so we hold on to it, but just appreciating the reflection that life is giving to us, and just staying in that space of open flow and of trust and abundance. And then there is no end to that stream of gifts that keep on coming towards us in that way.
Yes, beautiful. And that leads into what Ronja's talking about. There's a phrase I use a lot called keeping something open palmed. It's like I see in one of the questions, no, is that one?
Yeah.
Alidas?
Alidas, yeah.
Alidas. Hey, Alidas. When you're saying, like, yes, I was literally making up this question because I know what feeling I want, but not what outcome, what job, what partner, what plan, etc. So thank you for sharing that.
I've been wanting this answer all day, and here it is manifesting.
Yeah,
good.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you. So, it's all thanks to you, ladies.
Yes. And so I also want to say, it doesn't mean I'm thinking of a structure right there. Let me actually not. And we want to use them as permission slips. So if there's a symbol, if there's an image of the car, if there's an image of the job, well, what job do you want? Latest.
Yeah.
Latest, yeah. And you might be like, well, I want the job where I'm doing that kind of thing because I have a friend who does it and it seems amazing, and it's like in this part of town with this beautiful building and it feels fun and it pays well, and so that job. So it's okay to put something on a vision board. It's okay to write out characteristics of a guy, or like think of like a guy that symbolizes the characteristics you think you want, or the car. But again, you keep it open palmed, meaning you don't then say, oh my gosh, there are these paints. This must be the reason, and then you close on it and like, this is it, and then you get tunnel visioned. So Kelly would get tunnel vision in the, I'm gonna paint at this woman's art studio. She's tunnel visioned in there, which very well could be the physical expression that happens. But if she keeps it open palmed and she feels so excited about art studio with this woman, it doesn't mean she needs to like, okay, let me just set myself up in case there's failure, just in case I don't get it, let me be detached. No, move in that direction. Your desire, your inspiration, your excitement is life is saying, yes, go in that direction. So you're going in that direction to get you in moving momentum into that direction, which is symbolizing for her perhaps life is supporting me. I am going to have a venue to do massive expression. And maybe it's not art in the way she's used to painting. Maybe there's some other thing that she can't quite grasp yet because it hasn't crossed her path yet. But so it's symbolizing, yes, life is on your side. Yes, you are always supported. Yes, you move in the artistic expression of your life and your passions. So that's what this art studio symbolizes. So she's moving in that direction. Then upon the way, if she doesn't get tunnel vision, or if that doesn't work out, then she's deflated. And then she starts thinking she's betrayed by life and sort of throws out everything that just what she was inspired about. And then, or if something comes right before that, and then she's like super lit up by pottery and some other thing about whatever. And as opposed to her thinking, wow, I'm so indecisive. I was going to go here. Now I want to go there. Like trusting that flow. It's like almost like a carrot dangling to get us moving in a certain direction, or a breadcrumb. And then it gets us in a certain direction. To keep it open palmed. It could turn into that thing. It could turn into that specific guy you met at the coffee shop. It could totally be him. And when you think about him and you think about moving in that direction of going out on a date with him, you get super lit up and you feel super open. You're like, oh my gosh, he therefore is my soulmate. Therefore, we're twin flames, obviously. Therefore, we should get married and have babies and live together forever and ever. And so if we throw that whole projection on things, I think we know enough now to know that can complicate some things. But what we can move in that direction, but just keep it open palmed, and it very well could be him. But it also is what he symbolizes, move in that direction, go out on dates, learn what you learn, and then know that like life is always guiding you regardless of what happens. And if it seems like it doesn't work out with him, that's no worries, because the next thing is right here.
And the next thing might even be better. It's always actually better in terms of there's always an upgrade happening continuously. Every moment, every day, there is an evolution and a growth and an upgrading happening. So for example, so right now I'm having this experience of in my heart there is this person that I feel very much in tune with just energetically, and I have these feelings of being in love, and we are not physically, like we're not geographically together in this moment. And so in this moment and in these months of spaciousness, in terms of like we're actually not physically together, I'm noticing that just energetically when I tune into him, I notice that tuning into him, I become inspired to live really fully, to really take care of my body, to live in this way, because like that's the resonance that he represents. So I'm super aware of that. In a way, he is permission slip for me feeling inspired to step into the kind of person that I want to be anyway. And so I'm having a lot of really powerful experiences in terms of upgrades, in terms of my inner state of being, in terms of my body, in terms of how I live my life. And so I'm very happily utilizing the permission slip of that other person that I envision being together with as a guidance, as like a North Star, as a guidance for tuning into a state of being that I want to step into anyway. And in doing that, I'm also realizing that in the same way that life brought us together when we met, life brought us together as a reflection of where I was at that moment. And as I am stepping into more of my fullness and restedness and trust in life and empowerment and health and vibrancy and all of that, then the reflections that life brings to me in terms of circumstances and people and partners and houses and trips and opportunities and everything keep on upgrading all the time. So to not hold on to a reflection that came to me a couple of months ago and say, oh, that is it. It might be it, because he is also on his own journey and upgrading and continuing and so on. So it might be that we are perfectly matching up, or it might be that that's not happening. But just trust that it's about the state of being. It's about the feeling, not the form. It's about the state of being, not the circumstance. And so when we tune in and we open up and we tune into a state of abundance and a manifestation shows up in our life, and if we then look at the appearance and hook into that, but forget about our vibrational alignment and our state of being, then we are missing the mark. So if we can all the time, or at least most of the time, have some or most of our feeling awareness tuned into our state of being as opposed to our external circumstances, that's when we can all the time have this connection with life and with our higher self that is independent of circumstances. And then life keeps on reflecting that. So life taking its cue from us rather than us taking our cue from circumstances. So that's just an important little caveat there, that when things start showing up, to not leave your alignment, not sort of leave your ship of alignment and hook into that, but to keep on feeling in tune with your state of being and your alignment with your higher self and with source.
And another way to say that is with your self-love, with that feeling of just being expansive and right with yourself is another way to say in alignment, in connection with all things, etc.
Cool. So let's see if there are any questions. So ladies, you who are on right now, if there's anything that is personal to you as well as something that might be valuable for other people, then feel free to either type it in the chat, or you can also come up to speak with us. And to do that, you should click, I think, because we have a slightly different interface here on the control panel side of things, but I believe that on either next to the chat on the top on the right, you can click on request to speak. So, and then you just have to click accept and make sure that your camera and that your microphone is turned on, and then we can speak with you. So Rihanna has written something here. She says, as I've been experimenting with imagination and fantasizing like that about the partner you speak of, Ronja, I notice how tricky it is, how easy it is to get attached even slightly to it/the image becoming true, even with aligning more and more, just part of the practice. Let's see, even with aligning more and more, just part of the practice. I don't know exactly what you're asking here. It sounds like you're just describing, but...
Well, the way, I mean, what I'm hearing is you're noticing that, okay, you have the image and you're fantasizing about a certain way that it could play out. And it might be a specific person, or it might just be the type of person, but a certain way the circumstance will play out. And as much as you're hearing this, you're still like, man, and it's so tempting. Like, it feels so good to be attached. Like, yeah, I don't want this level of satisfaction to come from a connection with the tree in my yard. I actually want it to be a guy, like I'm kind of attached to that. So awesome. And so I'm going to share something. If this resonates, go with it. If not, just forget about it. But what I see this is very common, I think. And it's when we're in that journey of separating circumstance from our experience, where the more and more we realize all we have is our experience. Like, all we have is almost just the sense perceptions. Like, if we close our eyes, it's actually like in this expansive now moment, we just have our experience of this expansive now moment. Like, I just have my experience of sitting here on this deck, and she has her own experience of sitting here on this deck, regardless of how amazing the house is, regardless, it's like wherever we go, there we are. And the more like we start realizing it is the state of being that is the juice, that is the joy, and that circumstances are permission slips for that juice, for that joy, then the easier it is for us to hold things open palmed. And I would also say, like, if you're to inquire about, well, actually, hold on, before I go to the second part, I just want to say, so this could be kind of like a higher level thing where it's throughout your day, start noticing that, in a way, the generic nature of life. Like, you're in a certain circumstance, but you're still, here I am, but I'm in a different situation. It's kind of like an extreme exaggeration. It's kind of like you're in the Matrix, and we're all plugged into some sensory things that are just like firing off neurons in our brain to make us think we're experiencing something. I know that's not very romantic, but there is some level of, like, it really is the experiential state of being that we care about. Because you could have the most chiseled, hot dude who's super conscious, reads spiritual books all the time, and like eats healthy, and is a
Probably
great
writes the spiritual books too.
totally writes the spiritual books, is a great cook, and you could still feel missed, and you could still feel not quite satisfied in the bedroom, and you could like there could still be so many things, you know. So it is the state of being. But so then the other piece is with. So I invite you to inquire, what is it about not getting this person? Like, what is that thing that comes up when you're like, well, I am kind of getting attached to this fantasy, this image that I have, but man, but maybe I'm supposed to be detached from that or independent from that or accept it if it happens a different way. What is that feeling of loss? Like, what is that feeling of lack? And it could be, well, I just want to be loved for me, you know? And there's something about you there. There's still an association with this scenario is the best way that your mind, or perhaps the only way your mind can come up with for you to feel that sweetness. And that's one of the opportunities. And yes, it can come that way. And that can be so rich. But when you then extract, like, okay, feel that love of finally being met, that love of finally being accepted, that love of really being seen. And we might be coming from a paradigm where that can only come from another partner. But I want to say that that experience can happen with friends, with looking at a tree, with their different qualities, of course. But it's that experience of self-love that still might be, or expansive love, love of other, that still might be associated with that circumstance. And so one of the gifts is if you actually extract yourself from that, and then in a way you realize you are this autonomous, empowered, energetic being, I actually guarantee you can show up in a much more juicy, healthy, connected way with your partner than if you were still feeling like your partner is this half of the circle that's completing your half of the circle. So it might seem counterintuitive. The more independent I am and the more of my own circle I am, is actually the more you can connect with somebody. And so that's an inquiry I invite.
Another part that is coming up for Miriam in this about attachment, when we look at what attachment is and where it's coming from, is that, so if I tune into this for myself, because I can very much relate to your question, getting attached to the image becoming true, is if I tune into the joy and the feeling of excitement for the possibility of calling in a partner that is a perfect match for me and where we can really meet on so many levels, where we are in this mutual feeling of adoration and just holding each other in that state of appreciation, and that we can go on this life adventure together and have so many experiences, and we can touch and make love and dance and swim, and that is such a state of joy and abundance when I tune into that and excitement. And the attachment comes in when I project a sense of a possibility of lack onto that. So some kind of limitation onto that. So for example, if you have the feeling of that this is what I want and you tune into that feeling, but then attachment comes in, probably there's some kind of definition that you have about that is limiting in some way, that is lacky in some way. For example, okay, I'm imagining this amazing partner, but in the background, even though I've worked on myself and I've tuned into this place where I feel, yes, I'm worthy of receiving, there's still this little voice in the background like, oh, but maybe that person, that this amazing person wouldn't want me. Maybe that's out of my league. Maybe that's like, I know those guys exist, but I can't have that because of whatever reason. So in that, this is a moment to tune in with the emotional guidance system, letting you know if your perspective about that is in or out of alignment with truth. So for example, if you have an imagination of an amazing partner, and then your mind tells you, oh, that's so amazing, but I probably couldn't have that. Like, I'm not beautiful enough, or I'm not fit enough, or sexy enough, or whatever. That feels contracted and that feels bad because it's out of alignment with how life itself sees that same situation and sees you. So that is a moment of indication for a possibility of realignment. And so what is a more true and more expansive perspective is this trust in the abundance of life and of connection, and that when we are in tune with our desire and we don't have any resistance to it, then that is very easy for life to match us up with that. And so just checking in with what, like, okay, there's an attachment, what is the belief behind that? What is the lack belief or the limiting belief? In what way am I defining this in a limiting way? And another part of this is also, so if we look at calling in a partner, so this is something that most of us, I think, are familiar with, this idea of making like a list, either writing down or just within yourself, just tuning in, even just emotionally or in your mind or in your feeling state. Okay, this is what I want, this is how I want to feel, and you envision this partner. So you have this vision of this partner, and for me, there are things like somebody who loves to dance, somebody who loves to massage, someone who lives in a state of gratitude, who feels in tune with the adventure of life, someone who loves taking care of his body, who doesn't smoke, who is a vegetarian, and like all these different things. And like somebody who loves maybe doing yoga every day or almost every day, someone who really takes care of his body. And so I have this list of like this perfect partner checklist. And it doesn't have to be specific like this, it can just be a general state of feeling. And then tuning into, okay, so who would be the perfect partner for that person? And am I actually embodying that? And so if I want to be with someone who takes care of his body and does yoga every day, am I taking care of my body? Or am I like stuffing myself with junk food? Or because a person who is like that, a person who is like the person that I desire, is probably going to want someone who is on the same level. It's very rare for like a super hot yogi guy to want to be with someone who eats donuts all day. So just checking in, like, okay, so is there some realignment that I can do with myself? And so what I found when it comes to wanting to attract a partner, very often we are using them as an external image for as a representation of something that we are actually wanting to step into. So when I tune into wanting to be with a partner who is really healthy and taking care of his body, that is actually an indication of a desire that I have within myself to take even better care of my body. And so this is not about trying to live up to some kind of external expectation and like, okay, so this is what I want. So if I act like this, that will increase my chances to get what I want. It's not about faking something, like becoming something artificial so that you can get the guy. It's not at all about that, but it's about seeing that what you desire in a partner is very often an indication of what you desire within yourself, and see how that can become an inspiration and a very joyful kind of motivation and inspiration for you to actually embody that more within yourself. So that's something you can really tune into when you look at specific qualities, especially, and state of being. If you want someone who really lives in the abundance and in gratitude and the trust and the flow of life, if you are not yet doing that, that can be a permission slip and an inspiration for you to actually step into more of that within yourself. And then the matching up in terms of a partner happens by default. It cannot not happen when we are in that. So let us know if that's
Yeah,
if
well,
that was helpful.
I want to share a little bit of what might sound like a difference to what she's saying. So it's in total agreement with what she's saying, but at the same time, a partner who is fit, healthy, conscious, et cetera, often will want someone of like vibration. So yeah, so you have to see if you match that and if you're actually walking that talk, so to speak. Yes. And I want to say a chiseled, fit dude, like it's more the expression of self-love. Like often an indicator of healthy eating, healthy living is often an indicator of a self-love, of a feeling of self-empowerment. And crappy food, junky eating is often a symbol of I'm disempowered, I don't really care, I have a lot of like lack beliefs or something. So typically it's symbolized that way, so that's true. However, I want to say it's what those actually symbolize. So if somebody is in a state of self-love and empowerment, and for them that expression is through juicing, vegetarianism, healthy eating, etc., and there's somebody else who is in such a state of self-love and is enjoying donuts and lush desserts and is embodied in her sensuality and whatever, but traditionally may have a few pounds on her, but it's like that's so just accepted and in tune with her theme. That's fucking hot. And so those two people can be together. So it's not like Well, if you want a buff dude, you got to get buff and hit the gym so you're worthy to for that dude. And I know that's not what you're saying, but that's such a common trap that our freaking goofy society falls into. So I really want to say it's, if you feel resonant and for you eating donuts is like a measure of self-love and glory to the universe, then fucking do that, you know? And yeah, that's what I want to say.
Yeah, I want to add to that about the food as well, because it's like, and I've said this before in some previous training or whatever, that it's not so much about what we eat, but how we feel, how we eat it.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, personally for me, I feel this is again about following the excitement. Like for a long time, I just ate whatever I felt like, and I felt good. Like it was really about how I eat it. And in this moment in my life, I feel super excited about mostly fruitarianism and eating a lot of papaya and coconuts and eating mostly raw food, because that feels exciting. However, I do feel that it's better to like eat pizza and chocolate cake and donuts and enjoy it slowly with full pleasure than to be eating carrots and just raw vegetables all day with the feeling of like, oh, I should be doing this because that's what I read on the health blog and the other ones are doing it, so I should be doing it. Like the state of being is actually more important. So it's only when being healthy and fit comes from a state of excitement that it's actually going to be really powerful. So thank you for adding that.
Totally.
Yeah, cool.
Totally. And I have one more thing I want to say, but let me just grab it. Yeah, while you read those things,
Yeah.
That, what was it?
Rihanna says yes. Rihanna says yes, all caps. Oh my, this worked out so well. Haha. Thank you both for these amazing, inspiring answers. Totally resonate with both of you. Ronja, thank you especially for these last two things added. Cool. And she says, yes, Ryan, thank you for that expansion on it. Totally agree. Ronja, what especially hit home is the lack of belief behind attachment. Yes. It's often a belief rising from the unconscious of somehow not believing myself to be worthy of what I desire and dream of. Exactly, because attachment, like if we have a desire and we just feel purely excited about it and there's no internal limiting beliefs or definition in the way of that, it will just feel exciting. And when it feels like there's something coming in saying, oh, we can't have that, that's when, like, it's almost like a double compensation thing. We have the desire and then the something coming in saying we can't have that, and then feeling attached, oh no, but I really, really want it, coming in on top of that to try and hold on to it even stronger, because we feel as if we don't hold on to it, it might slip away. And that is the moment to really go down through the layers and just see, okay, in what way am I defining this in a limiting way? In other words, out of alignment with truth. Yes, dismantling the mind trap. Exactly.
And I just remember what I was going to say. So, Rianne, when you're talking about the fantasizing as well, so everything we said, and if in moments you feel lit up with this fantasizing, know that it's all right now. Like life is one big now moment in truth. And this is perhaps a better way to go about it than that matrix analogy I used. But so if right now you're lit up by fantasizing about whatever that is, the guy, the situations, the circumstance, whatever, just notice, instead of you orienting to that's some external future moment that I hope I get so I can actually enjoy it, this is what I was actually meaning to say before. Like tune in to, you're actually experiencing it now. In this now moment, I imagine when you're really fantasizing, you notice your chest relaxes, you feel juicy and connected, and relaxed. And that's so healing. Imagination is so powerful and healing for our endorphins, for our nervous system, for everything. And so if that image works for you, do that, because then if you don't just sort of only like future project or create some lack belief, I don't have that now, I hope I do. You actually do have it now. If you actually tune into what you're experiencing. And then you come out of your moment of imagination, of fantasizing, of imagineering your life or your situation. Let that translate into your day. Don't be like, open your eyes, stark difference. That was then, hopefully it's in the future. Gosh, I hope I get it. And now you're going into some different experience. Open your eyes and let that resonance color what you see. And then you step into your day, and the conversation you get into, you're feeling like lit up. You're feeling like you just had some great sex. And you're just like, woo, feeling super complete and And so then let that flow into your day with the conversations, with the other things you do. Like I notice me playing with this of like this amazing woman with all the characteristics that I want, etc. And we just had the most amazing sex in the way, the edges that I wanted to explore. And I'm in my living room when I would be literally be in my living room. And in my mind, it was kind of hard for me to imagine her in that moment, like physically sitting right there. So I'm like, she just went into the bathroom. I already said goodbye. So she's in my space, but she's just out of my sight. Easier for me to imagine sometimes. So I already said goodbye. She's taking a shower. So I'm going to go to work. And so I go to do my thing. But throughout my day, I actually feel like I just like I'm so fulfilled. And so that's then carrying into my day. And so then it's carrying into my job decisions. It's carrying into this sense of empowerment, this sense of this thing that I always wanted. In one sense, even though it was my imagination, I still have a reference point in my memory. Like it's still actually a memory I can reference. And it's trippy when we become less attached to physical circumstance and realize physical situations is just physicalized imagination to consciousness anyway. It's all imagination to consciousness, whether it's your imagination or whether it's what you think is real. And so I have this memory to fall back on. So then I'm walking through the streets and through the grocery store more confident. And guess what? That happens to kind of like on a side benefit, happen to be very attractive to other women. And so then I'm actually, what that is I'm becoming a vibrational match to that experience actually coming into my life.
So you're turning heads in a totally different way.
Totally.
Yeah.
But I'm not doing the visualization so that I turn heads at some future moment, so that hopefully in some future moment I feel satisfied, because then I'm always going to be in that state of the life and the props and the director of my film are looking at me and like, oh, Ryan's in that almost quite not quite there, but maybe gonna have it soon. So we're going to continue to dangle this carrot of almost there, but not quite there yet. Maybe you'll have it soon. Vibration, energy, experience. So I'll always just miss, or someone's just starting another relationship, or they whatever. And so it puts me into that state of being. So the side benefit is I'm a vibrational match, but the juice, and nectar is the actual now moment experience.
And then when it does show up, because see what he just did, that he placed what seemingly would be in the future, he placed this in his past and in his present as if it is already so. And then he's tuned into a place where he's actually receptive for that. So when he's walking down to Whole Foods to get his breakfast or something, he's in that vibrational state, and he exudes that aura of that empowerment and of that fulfillment, which yes becomes very attractive to women. And the same goes for women, like when you feel that sense of fulfillment, and that becomes very attractive to men or to women if you're into that kind of stuff. And then when you have the encounters, because you meet people most days, like unless you're living completely alone, we interact with people pretty much every day, and the encounters will be vastly different depending on if you are in that state of neediness and desperation and lacking, or if you're in a state of fulfillment. So in this now, for example, tuning into this person that I feel a lot of love for, and him not being here right now, but it feels like, okay, he is the closest approximation in terms of physical human form that I've encountered so far that matches my desire. And at the same time, by being in every now moment in this state of fulfillment and appreciation, I could tomorrow, Kelly and I are going through a raw food workshop, and I could meet the love of my life there. I'm not attached to it, but like it could happen. Just one example of that life has endless possibilities, because this person that I'm now tuned in with, a few months ago, I didn't even know that he existed. And so whoever is going to show up next in this moment, I'm not consciously aware of that person. And also that is not about the person, but it's about the state of being, and the state of being is available here. And it has the double bonus effect of we feel better right now, we feel fulfilled right now, and life begins to reflect that back to us in the most amazing kick-ass ways. So it's just like a double whammy super effect with that. Let's see if there are any more questions here. So let's see. Oh, this is a good one. So a lady says, in relationships, it's easy to form a paradigm about the other. Oh, he's so this, or he's doing this again. And it can be hard to shift back into alignment again, almost as if the relationship has to be born again every single day to allow the purity to come out. How can you realign? So this is something that I think almost everyone can really recognize, this feeling of like being in a relationship for a long time, and when we start to notice the little things that annoy us about our partner, and then they keep on doing it and we keep on noticing it, it's almost like we carve that neural pathway in our brain deeper and deeper and deeper, where we keep on noticing it, and because we keep on noticing it, we keep on noticing it even more. So how to shift out of something like that when it has become a pattern? Do you feel inspired to answer this?
This is a live stream in and of itself, actually. Like, there's so much I could say in it. I almost don't even want to stick my finger in it,
Yeah, me
so
too.
to speak.
Let's see who
Bad
rolls
analogy,
first.
yeah. Or good analogy. Um, Short version. I mean, it's a great, 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 great relevant question. And so this might not specifically address the nuance of what you're referring to, but like in one sense, yes, choose every day, but also tune into what you want. Like, if you're with a partner who's always doing something wrong, or doing something that, oh, he's doing that thing again, oh, he's doing that thing again, it's a problem when we think that him doing that thing is preventing you from feeling good. Him doing that thing is not letting him show up the way I want him to show up, and so I'm lacking an opportunity of rich, deep connection. That's why I'm pissed that he's doing that thing. If I felt completely and abundant in my experience of love, joy, happiness, fucking massive fulfillment is independent of whether he does that thing or not, I might see it with a ton more compassion. And I was like, he's doing his thing, it doesn't even matter. Then the next layer is attachment of, well, if he's always doing that thing, and that actually is preventing us in this dynamic from being in a relationship, then that might mean we have to end the relationship, which is a whole nother perspective can of worms, so to speak, to work with what lack beliefs come up about that. But ultimately, when you can rest and say, okay, I don't like what he's doing, well, what do I want? What do I want then? Noticing what we don't want is often very, 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 very helpful in then trampolining us into what we do want. So you don't hang out too long in the like noticing what you don't want. Deconstruct it a little bit, inquire about it. But then, well, if I don't want that, I want someone who can meet me in this way. I want someone. Then you get into that space. You hold that possibility. That could be enough for you to hold that almost that blueprint, that template, that he can then step into. And when, in a way, the psychic energy is so heavy about, God, you need to change, dude. I hope you change because I don't know if this is going to work. That there's a subtlety of like, you're not good enough unless you change. And there's a natural resistance to be like, yeah, well, screw you. And so if you hold what you want, he might be able to then step into that, like that wake, that energetic like expansion with you. And then all of a sudden you just don't notice him doing that thing anymore because he's meeting you in other ways. Or there can be a relevance to, okay, this has been a good ride. Many blessings. You have free will to choose the style of journey you're on. And if you're wanting to stay where you are, so to speak, as I'm having all these awakening moments, it might be relevant to say goodbye. And of course, do that with integrity and communication and all these other things, which that's why it's a whole other subject, perhaps. But know that whatever he does, so to speak, is not related to how you choose to feel. You're fully empowered with how you define any situation. And it could be this situation, instead of like in him being a jerk and then being more a jerk and more of a jerk, perhaps if you frame it as you're a failure, that's not going to feel good, it's going to suck. But if you're like, okay, I'm empowered to choose how I define any given situation. And really that is empowered living, that little piece. So if he's being a jerk, well, maybe this is an opportunity for me to have my no. Ooh, I feel tingles. Like, yeah, okay, maybe instead of this being an example of how I failed at a relationship, maybe this is an example of a beautiful opportunity for me to say my no. No, I'm not going to accept. I want to be treated. I deserve to be treated differently. I want a different type of dynamic in a relationship. And you finding that empowerment and apparently ruining from the outside, perfectly good from the outside relationship might be the most relevant. And of course, both parties agreed to these things on a higher level, most relevant thing for you. So then you can step into a different platform in your life and then attract that next layer, that next frequency realm, that next layer of reality, the next paradigm of relationship for yourself. I think that's all I'll say on that for now.
And so there's almost like two different layers to this, which is very much in line with what Ryan just said, is that the first resort in a way should always be to check your perspective. The first resort should always be like, okay, in what way am I defining this in a negative way? To check in with that, and in that also know that you can actually focus your partner into being, because we don't look at it as one reality and one partner showing up in a certain way, but that through your focus you can tune into a version of your partner that is showing up either in an annoying way or in a way that is very easy for you to appreciate. So that is really just the realization that all of life, and contrasting experiences especially, is the playground in which we get to play and practice our depth of alignment with our own higher self and with joy, really. And so in the same way that, for example, being stuck in traffic can be a circumstance where you can either get stuck into like being in resistance to what is, or you can have a moment of meditation. Your partner showing up in an annoying way can either be a moment to get annoyed, or to just, cool, this is a contrasting experience where I get to practice my own alignment. So you can get excited about that, and that shifts your state of being. And when you have looked through your definitions and your perspectives about things, and it still doesn't feel right, that is really a moment to honor your preferences, because there's a difference between triggers and preferences. Triggers is really when something happens and it hooks into your own misaligned perspectives, and then you spiral into a negative interaction that turns into an argument. And that is really when to come back into alignment. But from alignment, you can still have preferences. You can still have a preference to be in a relationship where you are treated in a good way, where you're treated with love and respect. And this is actually an act of self-love and of alignment and of knowing your own worth and knowing what you want and trusting that you can have that. And so it's not necessarily so that we should stay in a relationship that keeps on being abusive or that keeps on being repeatedly negative, just saying, oh, I just have to shift my perspective of that. You can shift your perspective and then from alignment see, okay, this is not in accordance with my preference anymore. And then let that go and trust that whatever shows up will be in greater alignment and a better reflection of that.
Beautiful. And the last little piece on more permission, perhaps for the mind, or more options, is when you frame what you want, how you want it. Okay, I want this type of relationship, this type of connection. And again, you're painting, and you can even imagine you guys in the type of interactions that you want. Again, you're setting this blueprint of possibility. And then it's in a way higher self communicating with higher self. You're kind of saying, hey, this is what I want. I'm holding space for you to step into this. And he can step into that. And instead of him like complaining and being the annoying whatever he's doing, then in your reality, he could somehow just decide to like bitch to his friends instead of you. And so you get the version of him where he just hung out with his buddies and he's just already offloaded all that stuff. And so he's just in a different space with you. So in a way, he's stepping into that role, and then slowly you guys can then cultivate that goodness, and then it continues. But also that's where there's choice on a higher level. Also, it might be a conscious personality choice of you're creating that blueprint, and maybe he just doesn't step into it. But again, that's the thing. Like the first step is really just, is always being vibrationally clear on what you want and letting life orchestrate itself.
Cool. This is one more thing that came to me about this, and I feel excited to share it. So this is also speaking from my own experience in relationships. So in my last relationship, there was this thing that kept on happening that both of us were actually noticing very clearly. So that when my partner would say something about me, that whatever he pinpointed would magnify, almost like against my own will, or seemingly sort of beyond my control. Like if he would say, like, why are you always doing this, or you keep on doing that, I would find myself keep on doing that. Like I would be like, yeah, you're right, I am doing that and it's not working. And still, because of him being so fixed in his point of view, you are always doing this, I noticed myself kept on doing that annoying thing.
She's filling into his blueprint of what he's actually focusing on.
Yeah.
Of her always doing that
so
thing.
He was like pulling that out of me. And when he was appreciating stuff and he was like, wow, it's so amazing, you're always doing this in such an amazing way, I just spontaneously started showing up in that way more and more and more. And both of us could notice it super strongly. And so a very simple example of this is that if I meet you and you're in a kind of neutral space, say, if I say to you, wow, you look really tired, instantly you begin to feel more tired. It's like, oh, I look tired. Oh, okay. And there's like, unless you're like completely rock solid in your alignment, that will not affect you. But for most human people, it will affect us somewhat. Like if somebody says like, wow, you look really tired, you look really sad. Are you okay? Then that is like, oh, am I? Oh, do I look tired? You look in the mirror and you're like, oh yeah, I do look tired. And because you come with that tired, like you're looking for tiredness, so that's what you're finding. However, you same scenario but different frequency, different outcome. I meet you and I was like, wow, you look so shiny today, you look really radiant, wow, that's so beautiful the way your eyes are glowing. Just even halfway through that first sentence, you are going to be more glowing, because I'm shining the spotlight on something that was maybe like a very, very subtle and very turned down, but just me focusing on that, that's going to amplify a lot more. And this is very similar to when we're in relationships. So say, for example, you're with a lover. This could be a relationship, or it could be a temporary, it could be a holiday romance or one night stand, or your husband. And say you're making love and you want him to look into your eyes more because he's like lost in his thoughts and he's not very present with you and he's thinking about things or fantasizing or whatever. And you would really love to feel more of the connection and more of the him looking into your eyes as you're making love. The way to not do this is to be like, why don't you look into my eyes? And like, you seem like you're distracted, and then you're focusing on him being distracted. You're focusing on him not being there and that being wrong. And so the way to go with this is like, okay, what do I want? Can I find that already? Like, even if it's subtly tuned down, in the same way that if you're coming to me and you look kind of tired and I say, wow, you're so shiny, that shine magnifies. So in this case, one way that would actually bring you more of what you desire would be to either in that moment or the next day be like, wow, yesterday when we made love and you looked into my eyes, I felt so open and I could feel you so deeply, and that opened me so much that even if that moment when he looked into your eyes was like 2 seconds the night before, the next time you're together in that way, he's going to be like, because he's going to be right there looking into your eyes, maybe for 4 seconds this time, or maybe for a whole minute, or maybe the whole time. But just through you pinpointing, also because I'm sitting next to God, so you can maybe confirm this, but like generally really enjoy just making us really happy and fulfilled. So if you pinpoint something like, wow, when you did that, that made me feel so seen and so held and so appreciated, he's gonna automatically want to step into that more and more because he can feel how that is bringing both of you into deeper connection. This is all happening subliminally, but just through highlighting something that you desire, even if it was small to begin with, that will bring out that quality in your partner more and more and more. And this can be applied to almost any quality, whether it's looking into each other's eyes during lovemaking or any kind of quality that you appreciate. So that's just another little thing that you can utilize. A lady says, you're blowing my mind. Yes, exactly. Thank you. This is a perfect explanation of the relationship paradox I keep running into, which is, she wrote this a little while ago. So it was, I think, when we were talking about this, about aligning the perspectives versus just honoring the preference and actually moving out of a relationship when it's time. It's almost time to wrap up, guys. Judy says, this way of looking at things, could you call that empowering habits? Do you think shifting to these new habits take practice? And how would you advise to do this? I really love everything you're sharing, by the way. Thanks, Judy. Yeah, so this might be the last question that we take.
Yep. And I would say yes, and tune into Central Yogini with these seriously, to help cultivate these ways of perceiving, these tricks of the trade, these like actual things to do, these habits, these exercises to do, but also just being continually inundated with these ways of perceiving. You get more and more used to it. As far as habits go, I would say there is practice, but it's more shifting the inertia, and it's not saying, it's more just we've just for so long have an inertia of a certain way of doing things, a certain way of perceiving. So at first it might seem challenging because you're shifting the momentum of a way of seeing from, say, the glass half empty to the glass half full, or moving away from something to like, well, what do I actually want then, to moving towards something. At first it might take a bit more focus, so you actually craft, all right, for the next 20 minutes I'm very consciously going to write and journal about this. I'm very consciously going to do an exercise, and it might seem kind of clunky and it has to be an official thing at first, but that's just starting to shift the inertia. But then just trust that very exponentially, it can start becoming easier and easier. Then that starts becoming the norm. So then when one of these like limiting beliefs that used to be so familiar to you, you didn't even see it like a month ago, now when it pops into your awareness, it's like in such contrast to your new way of thinking and seeing, that you see it even more. So it doesn't even, it hooks you even less. And then it starts snowballing in that direction. So yes, make a choice, choose to practice this. It takes a certain amount of vigilance. However, each step of the journey is the juice, is the joy. It's not, I need to practice this so that in 3 months I'll actually be able to be good at this and have a nice life. There's never an arriving, by the way. It's each step of, oh my gosh, of insight, each step toward greater wholeness within ourself and with life and with the nature of existence. Each little step we do, even within our own personality, toward that deeper wholeness is so magnificently celebrated. And so it's that little sense of fulfillment, those little steps are actually the nectar. And so I invite you to really enjoy the journey.
And the easier it gets, the easier it gets. The more you do this, the easier it gets, and the better it gets, the better it gets. So it's just keeps on getting better. So it's, yes, a bit of a habit in the beginning. And also, if there was like one habit that we could just highlight to you and give you that would just be pretty much the recipe for an amazing life, is to keep on following the excitement, to keep on following the joy. And so it's not necessarily always about thinking positively or redefining things, but like what feels exciting to me right now, what feels exciting, and just keep on doing that. And this is something that can be like super small or super big. So in any day, just keep on tuning into what feels alive, what feels aligned, and what feels inspiring, and that will just lead you into the most amazing adventure of life. And I was just, something came to me in this, is that when we look at the possibilities of life, that in the same way that us losing a job or losing a partner or losing a bag of paint and canvases, if we project lack onto that, we're shifting into a certain reality. If we're projecting or just trusting abundance, then that is giving us a certain reality. This can also be extrapolated to like a bigger global scale. So for example, in this moment, there are a lot of people talking about like global hunger and you know, the rainforests and environment and how terrible things are and how we need to do this and do that. And a lot of it is very, very fear-based. And from our limited perspective, from the planetary global perspective of this is the information that we have available right now, it seems like the right thing to do is to worry about all these things and to act out of fear. I'm not saying to not take care of the environment, because I live also in that kind of way as much as I can with organic, etc. But to just keep on being in a state of joy, because fact is we don't know. Maybe in a month from now, there is this like highly intelligent species arriving to the planet with this new solution that turns plastic into plants, or that just solves the entire issue with global warming, or that arrives with the solution for how to replant all of the lost rainforest within 5 years. Like that could happen potentially, right? Like that could happen. It hasn't happened yet, but the possibility is still there. Like anything we can imagine exists as a potentiality, as a possibility. So to just have that default response to life with trust and with abundance, with the, oh my God, that worked out so well, and just trusting that. So that's something you can really practically bring with you into your life from this moment onwards, tuning in with how are you flowing with life? What is your default response when things seem to not work out according to plan? And just keep on surrendering into that state of trust and of openness and trust in abundance and the flow of life. Let's
Great.
see. And Judy says, so much looking forward to the weekend with you. Can't wait to dive further into all of this. Yay. Yay. Yeah, exactly. So ladies who are watching this, if you are in Holland, or if you are close to Holland, or if you feel like traveling all over the world from wherever you are, then you're super welcome to come to the weekend that we have at the end of March, the 25th through the 27th in Utrecht in the Netherlands, where we are diving into a kind of different thing compared to this, but it's also related. It's all related.
Yeah.
But authentic relating and where empowered relationships and awakened consciousness meet. So we're going to
Which
dive into
really
that.
is kind of what we're talking about.
Yes, but
But
this
very
will be
experiential, very you get to apply and practice these things we're talking about in real time. So it's really fun.
And also much more in relation also to just the way we relate with each other and how to be able to show up in empowerment as well as transparency and vulnerability and just ability to connect on a very, very deep level. We'll also dive into some principles about masculine and feminine dynamics and attraction and relationships and juiciness and how you can go from having like kind of mediocre or kind of boring interactions to having these juicy, alive conversations and interactions with pretty much every single person that you meet, which is really fun. How to be totally okay even when you're feeling super nervous and lots of other cool things. So a lady says, Ryan, there's a little heart dangling over your head. It's actually, the funny thing, it's so beautiful that you see this. So this is like the analogy that Ryan was talking about, like walking down the same street and seeing different things. You see a heart, and if you turn this is actually more like a flower shape. It's like a little
with a dragonfly
with a dragonfly on it, but you saw a heart. That's so beautiful.
I know, and it lands as if it was a heart. Thank you.
It's like a little crown here. So let's see. We still have quite a few people on with us, and lots more will come on the replay. Rihanna says, woohoo, that weekend was so absolutely awesome. I feel so grateful and blessed and expanded to have been a part of it. Yeah, well that was such an amazing weekend.
Well done.
That was such, and we can also look at this video in the future and just look back and be like, that was such an amazing weekend. That was so good. This live stream worked out so well. Thank you all so much for joining.
Yeah, thank you. It's been a real treat being here with you.
And we'll see how we roll, because we're going to be together here for the coming weeks as well, both here in Kauai, and then in the shift between February and March, we're going to Maui for another 10 days or so. So we'll come on with something else. We'll just see how we do. We're probably going to do something that's open for the public as well in some way, and that one you're of course really welcome to join, but we don't have anything planned at this moment, but the feeling is we'll do some more cool things together when we are still together here. So Joanna says, brilliant session, feel so inspired. Thank you both. Lots of thank you. Thank you so much. Aleli says, this was beautiful beyond belief, and I can't believe how real the connection is. Yeah, isn't that cool? Nice. Yes, please. Yes, so more of the good stuff will come. And also for all of you, both you who are with us live as well as on the replay, if there are specific things that you feel like, oh my God, can you please, like this is this thing that I keep on bumping up against in my life, can you please address this? Then feel free to let us know, like either in the pre-webinar survey for the next one, or just message us or whatever, and we'll just bring that in. There were a couple of pre-submitted questions for this live stream as well, but it feels good to just leave it at this. And if there's anything really important, then we can also address it in the next one. We'll just blow away that. Anything else you want to say in closing, Ryan?
I think that's it. It feels good. It feels complete.
We're going to go out and enjoy the island, move to a new house.
Yes.
Many blessings to you.
Yeah.
Bye.
Nice meeting you guys.
Bye.